You know, it's a curious thing how a human being can look at you with a smile that seems perfectly ordinary, warm, even polite, yet behind that gentle curve of the lips, something quietly coils, something that hides in the shadows of their own mind. And it is not your fault at all. In fact, it has very little to do with you. It begins, as all things do, with a paradox. The moment you begin to shine, when you stumble unexpectedly into your natural rhythm, when you breathe a little more freely, or simply enjoy the innocent radiance of being alive, others may find themselves troubled, not because you have taken anything from them, but because you've reminded them of what they have forgotten about themselves. Envy, you see, is never really about the envied. It is the longing of a person who has misplaced their own center. Yet this longing, when unexamined, becomes a shadowy force. And if you are unaware of it, you may find yourself drained, confused, or strangely anxious without knowing why. So let us take a gentle walk into these hidden signs, not as a way to defend yourself, but as a way to understand the mysterious dance of the human ego. For once you see the pattern clearly, you don't need to run, fight, or resist. You simply step aside, like a leaf effortlessly floating around a stone in the river. The first sign, hidden though it may be, appears in the form of subtle diminishing. Not the grand insult or the flamboyant critique. No, no, that would be far too easy to spot. Instead, you'll hear small comments disguised as jokes. Must be nice for some people. Don't get ahead of yourself. Oh, you think you're pretty special, don't you? All wrapped in laughter, of course. Polite, almost playful, as if everything were perfectly innocent. But behind it is a quiet tension, a little tremor in the voice, a gleam in the eyes that watches your reaction too closely. You see, when a person envies you, they cannot celebrate your joy without feeling somehow betrayed by their own life. So they attempt to shrink what shines in you, hoping often unconsciously that it will ease the pressure they feel inside. It is as though your light creates a shadow in them, and they scramble to cover it. But must you fight them? No, you simply notice. Because the great irony of envy is that the envious person believes they are hiding their feelings from you, while in truth, they are only hiding them from themselves. The second sign comes in the form of strange imitation. Not flattery, not admiration. Those are natural. After all, we learn by echoing one another, but here, imitation carries a bitterness to it, like someone trying to wear your skin for a day. They suddenly adopt your phrases, your tastes, your interests, even your mannerisms, but not with joy, not with curiosity, rather with an anxious competitiveness. It is the ego saying, if I become like you, perhaps I won't have to feel lesser than you. They do not want what you have. They want what they imagine you are. And of course, this is impossible because they are playing a role in a play that only you can perform. This sort of imitative envy is a quiet tragedy because the person has forgotten the profound truth that they, too, are a unique expression of the universe. A wave trying to become another wave instead of realizing that both rise from the same sea. The third sign is more delicate, yet unmistakable once seen. They celebrate your missteps more enthusiastically than your successes. Now, this doesn't mean they will clap their hands when something goes wrong. That would be too cruel, and cruelty always exposes itself. Instead, they show their pleasure in subtle ways. A fleeting smile, a small sigh of relief, a peculiar gentleness that only appears when you are wounded. And why? Because your difficulty temporarily eases the ache of their own insecurity. Your momentary stumble assures them just for a breath that they are not falling behind. But take care not in the sense of fear, but in awareness. Anyone who grows brighter will cast a longer shadow in the minds of those who do not understand their own light. It is not a moral issue. It is a human issue. In this dance of envy, no villain is required. Only someone who has forgotten their own vastness. We continue because the deeper truths of envy reveal far more about the frightened ego than the shining soul it tries to pursue. And now we come to the fourth sign, which wears the disguise of silence, not the peaceful, contemplative silence of a friend resting comfortably in your presence, but a tight, lingering quiet that feels like a door being gently closed. You share something beautiful, an achievement, a joy, an unexpected piece of good fortune, and instead of meeting your excitement with warmth, they offer a brief nod, a mumbled, "Oh, that's nice," or sometimes nothing at all. A hush falls, not because they are listening deeply, but because they are hoping the moment will pass quickly, like an inconvenient breeze interrupting their carefully arranged hair. This is the envy that withdraws, shrinks, slips away. The ego, when threatened, does not always attack. Often it retreats. For when a person secretly envies you, they feel exposed in your presence, like standing next to a mirror they didn't ask to look into. And instead of facing their own reflection, they choose the comfort of distance. Therefore, your happiness becomes something they can only observe from across the room, behind the safety of emotional walls. Now, the fifth sign, the most elusive and, in a sense, the most revealing, is the subtle refusal to let you evolve. Watch closely. Whenever you begin to grow, expand, or transform, they tug ever so slightly on the threads of who you used to be. Since when do you act like that? You've changed. You're not the same person anymore. Something about your transformation unsettles them, because your evolution implies possibility. Possibility that they, too, might change. And the ego is notoriously allergic to change. So they cling to an old image of you, not because that version was better, but because it was less threatening, more predictable, more manageable. But you are not a fixed sculpture to be admired or resented. You are a living process, a stream, a flame. And anyone who insists on keeping you small is only expressing their fear of discovering their own vastness. You see, envy is the struggle of a person who has forgotten that they are, in truth, infinite. Now, it's important before we go any further to understand something subtle. These signs are not accusations. They are invitations to awareness. For just as others may envy you without meaning harm, you too, at some point in your life, have felt that same uncomfortable jolt when someone else lived more freely, more boldly, more authentically than you believed you could. We are all, in one form or another, gardeners tending the wild forest of our emotions. Some prune too harshly, some water too anxiously, some forget entirely that the soil must be nourished from within. So when you recognize envy, whether in another or in yourself, see it not as a moral failure, but as a tender misunderstanding, a misdirected longing, a signal that someone has momentarily lost sight of their own brilliance. Let us step back for a moment and examine the deeper landscape of this whole matter. Why does envy arise at all? Why does another person's light disturb the shadows of our minds? It is because the ego believes itself to be separate. This sense of separation creates a fragile identity, one that must constantly compare, measure, and guard itself. When you shine, it feels threatened. When you grow, it feels diminished. When you succeed, it feels abandoned. The ego is like a small child who thinks the sun shines on someone else at its expense. It does not yet recognize that the sun warms all who stand in its presence. And you, my dear listener, may find yourself tempted to dim your own light, to ease the discomfort of another person. But understand this: to make yourself smaller does not help them grow. To hide your brilliance does not teach them how to shine. To bend yourself into a quieter shape does not heal their wounded self-image. The only thing you accomplish by diminishing your light is participating in the illusion that there was not enough light to begin with. Now, there's something quite beautiful hidden within all of this. A realization that does not condemn the envious, nor place you above them. A realization that opens the door to compassion, without requiring you to tolerate harmful behavior. And it is this: people who secretly envy you are not reacting to who you are. They are reacting to an unlived version of themselves that they see reflected in you. Your joy reminds them of their sorrow. Your confidence reminds them of their fear. Your freedom reminds them of their chains. And in that reflection, the ego trembles. So what then? Are you to save them? Are you to purge them? Are you to wage war or rescue missions? Neither. For awakening is not an act of conquest, but an act of clarity. You do not need to fix anyone, nor must you condemn them. You simply step into awareness and allow life to flow naturally around you. Yet awareness, once awakened, will guide you. It will whisper when to move closer and when to step away, when to open your heart and when to protect your peace. And protect your peace you must, not from hatred, but from entanglement. For the person who secretly envies you may not know how to love you without hurting themselves. And the greatest kindness for both of you may be distance. A soft distance, a compassionate distance, a distance that does not accuse, but simply honors the truth of things. And now let us sink deeper into this understanding, into the nature of envy as a mirror, a teacher, and ultimately a doorway into profound freedom. Envy, when you really look at it, is not a poison in the other person at all. It is a misunderstanding of identity, a confusion about where the self begins and ends. Because if you truly knew, not as an idea, but as a living experience, that you and every being you meet arise from the same source, then someone else's joy would be your joy. Their growth would feel like your expansion. Their light would illuminate your very own path. But until a person realizes this, envy becomes a substitute for intimacy, a barrier that pretends to be a boundary, a protective mask worn over a heart that is consequently suffocating a little. And those who envy you will not say, "I envy you." No human ego has ever been so honest. Instead, it speaks in sideways languages: sarcasm, avoidance, imitation, withdrawal. So what are you to do with these signs? Not flee in fear, nor confront with hostility. Rather, observe them the way you would observe ripples in a pond. Natural, inevitable, temporary. Because the problem is never the other person. The problem is how easily you might forget your own center when confronted with their confusion. Think of your life like a great musical instrument. When you are in harmony with yourself, the world resonates beautifully. But when someone else plays off key, the temptation is to adjust your tune, not to remain true to what you are, but to blend with their discord, simply because the noise feels uncomfortable. And so the real danger of envy is not that someone else feels it toward you, but that you may unconsciously fold yourself in response to it. You stop talking about what makes you happy. You hide your achievements. You dull your laughter. You shrink your presence. You blur your edges. Not because you wish to become invisible, but because you fear your visibility might cause someone else pain. Yet let us look at this clearly. To dim your own existence does not brighten anyone else's. To shrink yourself does not teach another how to expand. To betray your own spirit does not heal their spirit's wound. If anything, it deepens the illusion for both of you. And so, the wisest response to envy is not defense. It is not retreat. It is not attack. It is clarity. A clarity that says, "I see your discomfort. I see your struggle. And I honor your journey. But I will not participate in your misunderstanding of who I am." There is a gentle dignity in this way of being. It does not sting, nor provoke, nor punish. It simply stands, and in that standing, you rediscover something extraordinary. That your peace is not negotiable, that your joy is not conditional, that your light cannot be traded, borrowed, or diminished. Or rather, it can be diminished, but only by you. You see, the envious person cannot take anything from you. They have no real power over your brilliance, your evolution, your unfolding. Their shadows do not extinguish your flame. Your flame simply casts their shadows upon the wall. This is what troubles them. And so the question becomes, how do you remain compassionate without becoming entangled? How do you stay open without stepping into emotional quicksand? You do so by understanding the role of boundaries, not rigid, angry boundaries, not walls built from fear or resentment, but soft, conscious boundaries, the kind formed from awareness. Awareness, in its purest form, is the boundary, because once you can see someone clearly, you no longer expect from them what they cannot give. You no longer attempt to make them into something they are not ready to become. You no longer take personally what was never personal to begin with. You may still care for them. You may still wish them well, but you stop offering pieces of yourself to people who don't yet know how to hold their own. In this spaciousness, something beautiful happens. The pressure lifts, the tension dissolves, the dance becomes lighter. and you discover that your true nature remains untouched, like the clear sky above the storm. Now, let us step even deeper. For envy, in a strange and sacred way, can become a teacher, an unexpected messenger showing you where you, too, might cling to an image, an identity, a story of who you think you must be for the world. When someone envies you, they are saying without words, "You are carrying something I have forgotten exists within me." And that statement, though born from suffering, reveals an ancient truth. Everything admirable in you they already possess, but have not yet awakened. Your confidence is their sleeping confidence. Your creativity is their dormant creativity. Your freedom is their unclaimed freedom. They do not envy you. They envy the version of themselves they have not yet dared to live. And so envy becomes a mirror, a quiet suggestion that somewhere, in some corner of human consciousness, something wishes to be remembered. This is why you do not hate them. This is why you do not retaliate. You simply maintain your presence, your clarity, your freedom. For in doing so, you offer them the only gift worth offering, an example. You show them what it looks like to live unburdened by comparison, to shine without apology, to move without fear, to exist without shrinking. And not all will appreciate this gift. Some will run from it, hide from it, or try to break it. But some will awaken. And in that awakening, envy dissolves like mist in the morning sun. Now let us proceed, for the deepest insight is yet to come. The understanding that envy itself is a doorway to compassion, freedom, and an entirely new relationship with your own luminous being. You see, the moment you understand envy not as an attack, but as a cry from the depths of an unawakened self, your entire relationship with it transforms. The envious person shows you, without meaning to, where human beings forget their own nature. And in witnessing this forgetfulness, something tender stirs within you. Not pity, not superiority, but a gentle recognition. For you, too, have known moments of forgetting. You, too, have compared yourself to others. You, too, have felt the sting of seeing someone live with a freedom you hadn't yet allowed yourself. All of us have carried the ache of wanting to be more. But the great misunderstanding is that being more means becoming someone else, instead of realizing that it means becoming fully yourself. And that is the root of all envy, the belief that what you long for exists outside of you. But imagine for a moment that you are the sky, the vast, open, eternal sky. Others may appear like clouds, some bright, some dark, some drifting gracefully, some gathering storm. But none of them diminish the sky. None of them reduce its space. None of them steal its light. The sky does not compare itself to its clouds. It simply holds them. And you too are that sky, spacious, aware, untouched by passing moods, emotions, or projections. When someone envies you, they mistake a cloud for the sky. They cling to the shape of something passing, forgetting the infinite presence beneath it. Your task is not to remind them because you cannot awaken another person. Awakening is something each must discover on their own, sometimes painfully, sometimes slowly. Your task is simply to remain as you are, open, clear, vast. Do you see now why stepping away from those who secretly envy you is an act of compassion rather than rejection? For if you stay too close, you become the canvas upon which they project their forgotten dreams. You become the screen for their insecurity. You become the measuring stick for their unhealed places. And both of you become stuck in a dance neither intended. Distance frees you. But it also frees them. Because when you step away, not with anger, but with awareness, you remove the mirror they have been using to avoid their own reflection. You give them the opportunity to meet themselves directly. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. But that is no longer yours to manage. Their journey belongs to them. Yours belongs to you. And now, let us take this understanding to its deepest point. The true danger of remaining close to someone who envies you is not that they may sabotage you, or undermine you, or wish you harm, though that does sometimes happen. No, the deeper danger is that their perception of you slowly becomes your own. You begin to doubt your worth. You begin to question your joy. You begin to edit your personality in the presence of their discomfort. You begin to believe that your light must be dimmed for others to feel safe. But life is not asking you to shrink. Life is not asking you to apologize for existing. Life is not asking you to negotiate your brilliance. Life is asking you to awaken. Awaken to who you are beneath the comparisons. Awaken to who you are beneath the expectations. Awaken to who you are beneath the judgments, projections, and shadows of others. For your existence is not a mistake. Your gifts are not accidents. Your light is not optional. You are a unique expression of the entire universe, a wave rising from an infinite ocean, shaped by forces you cannot fathom, carrying a rhythm no other being could ever replicate. And anyone who envies you, envies not you, but the freedom in you they have yet to discover in themselves. When you understand this, you no longer take envy personally. You no longer carry the burden of another's confusion. You no longer enter battles no one can ever win. Instead, you simply bow, a quiet, inward bow to the mystery of the human heart. For every being you meet is doing the very best they can with the level of awareness they have at this moment. And though envy may appear as hostility, coldness, imitation, or withdrawal, beneath that is a soul longing to remember itself. So step away when needed, but step away gently, without resentment, without drama, without storytelling. Step away the way the tide withdraws from the shore, not in anger, but in rhythm. And in that rhythm, you will discover a remarkable truth. You never needed to protect yourself from those who envy you. You only needed to protect yourself from forgetting who you are. The world does not need a dimmer version of you. It needs the luminous, unguarded, unapologetic expression of the universe that only you can offer. So let your light remain. Let your joy breathe. Let your presence expand. Let your being be. And as you move through life open, aware, awake, you will find that even envy becomes part of the grand dance, a wave rising and falling, a shadow appearing and dissolving, a misunderstanding blossoming, eventually into wisdom. For everything, when seen clearly, reveals its place in the great unfolding, even envy, especially envy. So breathe deeply now. Feel the space around you. Feel the space within you. Let all things come. Let all things go. You are the sky. Let the clouds pass.